All right, so welcome back, class. We're going to be doing the first half of chapter 12, and then we're going to go ahead and dive straight into chapter 2, where we actually set up our company file in terms of the chart of accounts. So we're going to be breaking down this into two sections. Since if you read your book, chapter 1 basically walks you through for the project or the problem, the end of the book problem, chapter problem, that we're going to be setting up our Imagine photography. But here are a few rules and things that you need to know ahead of time before you actually set up your company file. So we need to take a look at chapter 12, Advanced Company Setup. Okay? So this is where we're going to talk about things that you need to know before. So primarily when you're setting up your company file, first thing that we have to realize is you usually are going to be setting up a company file that is for a non-existing company, right? As in it's never existed before and you're starting from scratch, right? That's the premise of most of the idea of starting out QuickBooks is I'm not a pre-existing company. Well, what if you are a pre-existing company? What do you need to know to be able to set up your company file appropriately? And that's where chapter 12 is going to walk you through all of those steps, because we're looking at setting up a pre-existing company, which is Imagine Photography, right? So there are necessary components that we will talk about that will facilitate and make it much more easier to set up your company file. Okay, so here again, if you are choosing to migrate, so in this case, if you have an already pre-existing company, or if you've already used prior accounting software, whether it's Peachtree or where it's Microsoft, or whether it's QuickBooks itself, right? Maybe you're transferring your data from QuickBooks Desktop to QuickBooks Online. You are able to do that, okay? And in this case, we are going to be setting up our company file from scratch, but it's with pre-existing files, such as we have a chart of accounts that's already set up for us. We have our customers list, we have our vendors list, we have our products and services. So all of those are already pre-made, pre-set for us to use. But in this case, if you choose to, yes, you can migrate. If you already are currently using an accounting program and you're switching to QuickBooks Online, you can migrate your file. So it is very possible, okay? Now, first rule of thumb here is you do need to know that if you are starting a new QuickBooks Online company from scratch, right, these are the 10 steps that you need to know, okay? Or there's 12, sorry, excuse me. So these are the 12 steps that you need to know, okay? This is going to help you walk you through every single component you need to successfully fill in your company file, set its preferences, make sure that you have your chart of accounts, make sure that you have your appropriate lists ready to go before you actually start inputting data into your QuickBooks file. Okay, so the very first one is establishing a start date. Okay, then the next one is going to be the company subscription. So again, which company subscription are you needing to use for your company? Now, as I've mentioned, if you sign up with the link that I sent an email to you guys automatically get the QuickBooks Plus edition. All right, that one is the third tier, right, where you get to experience recording bills, recording expenses, recording income, and especially you get to see inventory. Okay, so in this case, you're going to be needing that, and then you need to set up your chart of accounts as step 3. Now, as far as this 12-step system to set up your company file, you're going to notice things like I need to put in my outstanding transactions. What is that? In this case, and then you have to enter in all of your year-to-date income and expenses. What is that? You need to update your sales tax. All of these steps that you see here are going to be things that we do learn throughout the rest of the chapters. So for today, the most we'll get to is up to step 3, because I need to teach you throughout the rest of the chapters how to do the rest of the stuff. Now, of course, right, then what's the point of us having to read chapter 12? Well, if you think about it, if all the chapters in between is going to teach you how to do a bill, how to input an invoice, how to manage your expenses, and so on and so forth, then you kind of have the idea, right? Chapter 12 means that you've already gone through the entire book. But as far as this is definitely the most important thing that you need to know if you're going to be starting your company file in QuickBooks Online for an existing company as is, right? So that's exactly what it says right here, for an existing company. So it's important that you do know this. I don't know why they don't put this in chapter 1, right? It would make sense to put this in chapter 1, but this is assuming that you are familiar with QuickBooks and that you already know how to do the rest of the components. But as we gradually go through the rest of the lesson, so as we go through chapters 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, all of that will basically, what we're going to do is we're going to walk you through and setting up your entire company files into its entirety, right? So we will be looking at entering our bills, entering our outstanding invoices. We will be looking at putting in our tax, sales tax payable. So in this case, we will be looking at taking a physical inventory count, right? So all of these are just the chapters in between. Now, do I need you to worry about that? No, not right now. Right now, for today's lesson, we are just going to go through the first 3 steps, right? We already got step 2 out of the way, right? Because we already know exactly what online subscription we're going to be using for this class. But we need to establish, number 1, the start date, and we need to establish the chart of accounts, which is what we're going to be doing today. So again, as we go through every single chapter in class, we will eventually hit all the 12 steps that you need to set up your company file. So then if you ever want to go back to it, right, you're able to reset your whole entire company file and do the chapter 12 section. Now, in this case, right, like I mentioned, I'm going to walk you through it. So let's go through. The very first step is to setting a starting date. Now, what if my company is starting on a random date in June? Okay, random year. Okay, let's say I want to start my company June of 2020. What start date should I be using? In this case, they usually recommend establishing your fiscal year. Okay, what is a fiscal year? Well, it's basically a year of accounting period where you're going to be establishing when the first day you start to the very last day of a 12 consecutive months to help you ultimately file for taxes. Okay, that's the most important thing that you need to know. So again, there are 2 types of years, right? You got calendar year, which is January 1st all the way to December 31st of one whole year. And what that means is you're going to start filing for taxes the following year, somewhere in January, February, March, right? So that is the idea of why you need to have that kind of year. Where a fiscal year, so typical one, I'll give you an example. So anything that's government funded or state funded, usually their typical fiscal year starts July 1st of one year all the way to June 30th of the following year, right? So that is their way of keeping track of their whole year of income and expenses. And what they do is then they finally file their taxes during the summer, August, September, October, right? Usually around there. Because once again, right, why does a fiscal year work better for them? Because, right, what do we have at the end of the year? We have elections, we have state senators, we have all the taxes that change every year, right? So they're going to be super busy during the winter season. They don't have time to file those taxes during those years because they're already occupied with other governmental things that they need to do. Now again, it doesn't have to necessarily be the midway point. It could be any 12 consecutive months. So if you want to start your fiscal year on April 1st and end it the following next year on March 30th, then go ahead and do so. As long as you establish that with the IRS. But in this case, we're looking at a fictitious business. Now, the easiest rule of thumb is calendar year seems to work the best for a lot of people just because it's easy to remember, okay? Right? You got January 1st you're going to start, and you got all the way to December 31st, right? Easy to remember. I need to file tax the following year, whether it's January, February, or March. That's my responsibility, okay? So that is if you are going to be establishing your fiscal year to be either calendar year or whatever works best for your company, then that's where you're going to derive your starting date. Now, if you're starting your company from scratch, then I say whatever day that you start on. So let's say I decided to start my business on June 5th. I'm going to revert that back and take it back to the previous month, okay? So that means I'm going to start my starting date on May 31st. Why not start the beginning of the year? In this case, you want to cover your bases for June 1st, June 2nd, June 3rd, and June 4th, even though you started actually your operations in June 5th. That is just the rule of thumb, and that way, it doesn't matter whether you are established as your calendar year or fiscal year, right? Because you're starting your company on a very specific date. You just have to take it back to the previous month of the last date, and then you file tax for that year, whatever it is. So if I'm using calendar year, right? December, I file the taxes for June all the way to December, and then I start my new accounting period starting January. So I do establish what my fiscal year is, and then I have to establish my starting date separately. Now, if you are a pre-existing company, they always recommend to use the last date of your last fiscal year. Meaning, if I'm calendar year, right, I'm going to start my date on December 31st, okay? Why not January 1st? Because if you start on January 1st, it technically doesn't count January 1st, right? You want to make sure that you include January 1st operation. So that's why they recommend at the end of their last fiscal year. So again, calendar year, if I'm an already established business and I'm starting my accounting period as a calendar year, I'm going to put my starting date as December 31st of the previous year, okay? Because then from there, you're going to need to put in all the company data from January to wherever you start your new QuickBooks. You never start your QuickBooks online on a random date. Even if you decide that your company already existed and you decided to finally use an accounting program, no. Again, if you are a pre-existing company, you need to use the last date of your last fiscal year. But if you're a brand new company that's never used any kind of software and you're starting from complete scratch, you use the last date of the last previous month. And then set your fiscal year to be whatever date that it is. Because you're not going to have information from January. You just established your business in June. So that is exactly the rule of thumb there. Okay. So again, the start date is very important, because then what you need to do is you need to backtrack all that information into your QuickBooks Online, especially for payroll, right? Payroll holds that year to date tax information, right? You need to put all of that information into QuickBooks, which is one of the things that is set to the list, right? You need to put all the year to date information. Okay, so that's very important that you do know. Now, oftentimes, usually when a company transitions, they usually transition usually in the very beginning of their fiscal year. They don't just make a decision in the middle of the year. So again, a lot of these are thought out ahead of time. Okay. So that's the first thing we got to do, is establish our start date. Then, of course, we already know that we're going to be subscribed to the Plus edition. So now, then the next one is you're going to be needing to set up your chart of accounts. So that is it for chapter 12. Okay. So let's go ahead and take a look here. Setting up my company file. So for those of you who are choosing to follow along with me, I should have sent you guys an email, right? If it was last night, it was yesterday right after class. So I've already sent you guys an invitation to set up your QuickBooks file. So once you see this page, it says right here that your instructor has invited you to, blah, 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 right? And you're going to click on accept the invitation. Okay? Once you accepted the invitation, if you do not have an Intuit account, you need to register for one. Okay? Please use your real information. Do not use the staff's information. Do not use do not use any other but anybody's information, because they're going to personally be sending you a link to actually go set up your company file. So you definitely need to use your information, okay? And what they're doing here is they're just collecting information. So then if you do choose to utilize QuickBooks, you already have the information that can be translatable to the next program that you decide to use, right? Whether it's Intuit or TurboTax. You can link them all, okay? I believe Intuit owns much more different programs out there, but the one that everyone's most familiar is TurboTax and QuickBooks. So in this case, they hold everything into file. Now, you don't need to use the email that I sent you guys to. So if you guys are more comfortable with your Gmail or with another email, sign up with whatever email that you frequently check, okay? Because this is ultimately going to be your login information, right? When you log into the page, you're going to utilize that email that you set up your account with. Now, again, you're going to fill in all your information. Once you fill in all your information, right, you should be sent an email. That email is going to give you a link and tell you what the next steps are going to be, all right? So that's why it's very important that you utilize your own email and whatever email that you're comfortable with, and so on and so forth, okay? Now, when you go ahead and do that, right, in that very QuickBooks page should populate that link, all right, to the exact company file that you're going to be setting up. And what I need you to do is remember, this is something that you want to save, because if you do not save this web page, you're going to have to go back into your email to go through your student portal for that exact company file. So again, what you're going to do is after you sign up and registered, right, then you're going to go ahead and open your email to follow through with that link, and that link is what you're going to be needing to save to do the next problem for the next for the next month, right? Okay, so once you've done that, now if you already have a pre-existing Intuit account, right, you just type your email in there and it will say, oh, this account already exists. It will pop up a little in red with a blue link saying sign in. And when you sign in, then you fill in all your information. Now, if it starts to ask information such as your street address, okay? Yes, you do need to use your legitimate street address. Okay? Now, all of the things that you put into it is confidential. Right? That's why I'm not going to walk you through this section, because this is something that you have to do on your own. So again, because they're just collecting information, they're not going to use it for anything more except for marketing materials, right? They're just going to, send you an email, maybe send you something, right? But it's just mostly for promotion. So then that you're interested in case you do want to open up your business and you want to open up a company and you want to use QuickBooks, they offer a bunch of different deals and discounts. But anyways, besides the point, you're going to go into your email, click on that link, and then follow through, because once you click on that link, you're going to automatically set up your company file, okay? So then you're going to get to this page here, all right? So I've already set up my company file, okay? I'm already created the link to it, okay? So here it is. Oh, wrong one. Okay, so you're gonna go here, right? Mine is gonna be in Imagine Photography. So once you go through this whole entire process, you need to save it on your tabs. If you don't know how to do that, on this very thing here for Google Chrome, it is very easy for you to just click that star and you automatically will get that page saved, okay? So, as you can see, it takes time because you need to have internet access. So in this case, it should be recognizing that I am starting my company file, and it totally skipped over the setup. There it is. I think it's going now. So again, if you're having terrible internet access, that will ultimately again, slow down the process of you going ahead and doing your QuickBooks, right? You need the internet, and of course, to be able to do everything online. So once you get here, this is where it's going to actually go and walk you through what's called a company file setup interview, right? It's going to walk you through and ask you question by question on what you need to know to fill out and set up your company file. So in this case, right, it says, tell us what you need to help us create your file, right? So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and click next, right? So the first thing is, what would you like to call your business? Now, in this case, what we recommend you to do is call it last name, first name, initial, whatever the company file is, and the date if you want it. Okay, now this is an example, right? So John Doe is J Doe, Sushi Coma Incorporated 2022. Okay, it's whatever you want to put in there. So if you don't want to put your first name, last name, and whatever information that you want to put in there, you're fine with just putting your company, right? But just make sure every time you log into the QuickBooks file, that it's important that you know that you named your company your company. Now, in this case, you can always make changes to the company name, right? I'll show you where to do that in chapter 2. But in this case, they do say first initial, last name, the company file, and the year, okay, would be the most appropriate one. So in this case, right, for me, I have it as Imagine Photography, November 2022. Good. And then it says right here, is this my legal business name? What's the difference between your legal business name and your company file that you're just trying to name the file for? Well, there you go, right? One of them is what you're going to associate your company with, and one of them, the legal name, is if you are a legalized business, right? The one that you signed up with the state with, right? Your business certificate. You're licensed to do business, that's your legal name. Now, in this case, since I'm doing a fictitious business, right? So, Imagine Photography is created by Questiva, and what their main purpose is that they're trying to do is they are they created a fictitious business for the hopes of students to learn how to use QuickBooks. So, in this case, it is a fake business, but that's okay. We do not need to make this my legal business name. You do not need to be a business to create a company file, right? We talked about this. You can use QuickBooks for your personal necessities, right? So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and click next. Okay. So the next question says, how have you been managing your finances? So in this case, it's just asking a bunch of questions. So you can either say, oh, I've nothing, I'm just getting started, or you've already have a QuickBooks desktop file, you have an other accounting software that you use. So again, you have different options that you can choose. This one is just in case that you are already a pre-existing company and you already have set data already done. So again, it listed the first thing it says right here, QuickBooks desktop version. So this is what this question is asking is, are we migrating from an previous accounting software to QuickBooks Online? So we've already talked about how feasible that is. Or are you starting from scratch? So in this case, they tell you to click nothing. I'm just getting started. So in this case, I'm going to click next. Okay. So once we get here, now it's going to ask me what my industry is. So what is an industry? An industry is going to be in relations to what kind of topic or what kind of purpose do you serve in your business, right? Are you a retail store? Are you a restaurant business? Are you clothing and apparel kind of business? Are you cosmetics? Okay, those are called industries. So in this case, I believe they tell you to skip for now, and then we can fill that information later. So in this case, yes, we're going to go ahead and click skip for now. Now, when we actually take a look in chapter 2, we'll actually set up an industry later on, okay? So once you do that, so we're going to go ahead and click skip for now, okay? Next question says, what kind of business is this? So this is where you need to know your 5 different types of business organizations, right? Are you a sole proprietor, meaning you and the business are one? You only have one owner. Are you a partnership, meaning 2 or more people are going to be owning a business? Are you a corporation? S Corp stands for small corporation, but the difference between an S Corp and a regular corporation is just basically, or C Corp in this case, is basically how you're being taxed. Okay? And if you don't see what you have here, you can also refer to I'm not sure. Now, in this case, when you do sign up for your business license, you should already know what kind of business you're establishing yourself as, right? Whether you're a sole proprietor, an LLC, right? You should already know what kind of business you are setting yourself up, right? Now, in this case, I believe we are going to be establishing as an S corporation, a small corporation, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and click next, okay? So then now that I click that, now it's going to ask me, how does your business make money? All right. Well, what do we do? Do you provide services? Yes, we do. And do we sell products? Yes, we do. And do you do something else? So in this case, do you create the product? Are you a manufacturer? So those are the things that you need to know is there are 3 different types of business activities, right? You either provide a service, you either sell a product, or you create the product. Now, in this case, you can select all 3. So what if I am a manufacturer who sells to my public and I provide service? Then you're going to have to click all 3 of them, right? But in this case, imagine photography, right? We do provide services because as a Imagine Photography, our services is the photo sessions, okay? And then of course we also sell things like custom made picture frames, as well as we print the pictures as well. So in this case, we do provide both product and service. Now, if you are either or, so if you just only provide services, then select provide services. If you only are strictly selling products, then only select products. Now, in this case, you can select multiple. So in this case, we're going to select both of those because we do provide a product and or service. Okay. All right. So now it's going to ask you what your position is when you're setting up this QuickBooks, right? In this case, are you the owner or partner? Are you the employee? Or are you the bookkeeper or other? Now, in this case, majority of the time, it's usually the owner or the bookkeeping or accountant who normally creates this company file. Okay? So, again, because if majority use of QuickBooks in general is to help bookkeep and help do the accounting, right? Now, in this case, if you are in a large corporation, most likely the position that you're in is, and you're creating the QuickBooks file, is you're most likely going to be the bookkeeper and the accountant. Now, of course, the owner can also create this as well. An employee, most likely not. Usually what you can do is there is a section in your book, I believe it's in chapter 2 as well, or chapter 2, that says that when you create your company file, you can create other users that can have access to the company file. So with the Plus subscription, you are able to add up to 5 users to have access to this QuickBooks file. Okay. Now, with that being said, we're not going to be setting up any users, okay? But like I mentioned, if you do need to have another user, oftentimes you're going to have certain access points for that person to have access to. You don't want them to have access to everything because, again, the way that internal controls is going to tell you is to separate your duties from the positions that every individual person does. So then it lowers the risk factor of fraud. So in this case, oftentimes the owner of the business or someone who's doing the bookkeeping or the accountant is normally going to create the company file, and anybody who has access to that file, the owner or the admin would create those extra users to allow the rest of the company's members to have access to the QuickBooks file. Okay, so that's just normal cases. So in this case, we need to make sure that we select that we are the bookkeeper / accountant. And I'm going to click next. All right, next it says who works at this business. Well, list them all. Is it going to be only the owner? Is it going to be employees? Of course, you're going to have employees. Is it going to be contractors? So yes, you can't talk about your 1099 contractors. There is a small section in the book. I do not, unfortunately, go over the 1099 section just because we won't have necessary time for it. But it is important if you do choose to employ 1099 workers because, again, 1099 workers, right? They don't have that much expenses compared to an employee, right? in terms of having to pay into their social security and so on and so forth. Okay, so let's see if we need to check off any more. So in this case, we're gonna check off employees, and of course, it says right here, all except the owner. Okay, select all except owner and click next. Okay, so therefore, we're going to select every option except for the owner. So we do have contractors and a few partners and owners. Okay, and we plan to hire, no, we don't need that one. Okay, so we can go ahead and click next. Now, as soon as you say that you are going to be having employees, first thing it's going to do is QuickBooks is going to say, hey, since you're going to be having employees, would you also like to sign up for a payroll system? We will talk about this in a few chapters. So again, chapter 13 and chapter 14, when we dive into payroll. If you choose to pay into this is a additional separate subscription. And I'll talk about what those 3 subscriptions are. So again, that means you have to pay an additional fee every single month to process payroll. Now, for those of you who've never experienced payroll, it is very tedious and it's very, very, very difficult. Okay? When I say difficult, I mean in terms of having to make sure that all the tax tables are current, up to date. All the taxes that you're taking out from a person's paycheck is, split between federal and state, and all the company, right, contributions, right? If you provide benefits and deductions, you have to calculate all of that. So in this case, that's why they do recommend that it's much easier to send it off to a professional person who can do it for you, right? That has the accounting software, who can do it for you, right? It's much more easier to pay someone else to do the job, right? And that's exactly what they're providing to you is, hey, why don't you sign up for a payroll subscription so you can be able to do payroll quicker, all right? Now, in this case, we are not going to be paying into a subscription, so I'm going to go ahead and make sure, say no, I do not want to add payroll, okay? And then I'm going to click next. So then now it's going to ask you to link up any other application. So again, like I've mentioned, because we have the ability to be using everything online, you are able to streamline a lot of your different applications. So if you accept payments through PayPal, Cash App, Venmo, we got it all. So therefore, instead of having to go into your bank or into your PayPal account and have to manually transfer all the money into your checking account and then having to update all that information again in your QuickBooks Online profile, that is where you can save some time by linking all of your accounts onto the Intuit application. So therefore, you have access to all of your accounts all in one web page. Now, again, the dangers of that is you are at risk of anybody who, if you're not being very secure, or if the internet you're accessing isn't secure, or your password is just not strong enough, then you're at risk of someone hacking into your company file and stealing all your information. But again, that happens to every type of business, right? So again, even though QuickBooks or Intuit, they pride on saying that their cloud-based service is 100% secure, anything you put online is not secure. So in this case, it is at your risk if you choose to link up all of your accounts. So then in chapter 6, chapter 5, or chapter 6, we do get to take a look at, you can even link your own bank account to your QuickBooks, as well as all your credit card accounts too. So again, You definitely want to be very wise on making that decision because of the consequences that could happen if you possibly get hacked. Okay? Now, again, it's up to your discretion, but in this case, they just want you to know that, hey, with QuickBooks Online, you don't need to have to log into 4, 5, 6, 7 different web pages. You can do it. You can be able to access them all in one place. Okay, accessing your bank account, your credit card account, your PayPal account, your Venmo account, Cash App. You can do it all. You can link them all together and streamline them all at once. So that's what they say, that QuickBooks Online is a very powerful and unique tool because of the flexibility of being able to manage everything all in one spot. Okay? Now, in this case, we're not going to have any accounts because, once again, first off, this is a fake business, and second of all, they're really going to ask you about legitimate accounts that you have, so we definitely don't want to put any information like that on here. So I'm going to go ahead and click skip for now. So once you've done that, then you're going to see this. As you can see, this green bar, right, is currently creating your company file right now. And it says right here, link any accounts and see everything that you want in one place. So this is asking you to link your checking account, link your other account. So in this case, we are going to also skip for now. Okay. So then it's going to say right here, what is everything that you want to set up? Well, go ahead and take a look at all the options that you have. Right? Here you have organize money, okay, in and out. Obviously, that's the first one, right? We need to record our income and expenses. Next one says here, invoice it customers. Of course, that's what we want to do. Do we want to track receipts and expenses? Of course we do. Do we want to pay our employees or contractors? I'm going to skip that for now because we're not going to be, I'll show you everything that you need to know for chapter 13 and 14. But we're not going to do that now, right? You don't want to set that up just yet. Okay? Do you want to track your sales? Of course. That's the main course of what we're doing for the QuickBooks Online, is to keep track of sales. And then it says right here, manage sales tax, of course. Other ones here says track mileage. That's up to you if you offer that. Okay? Do you want to protect my business, okay, with insurance? That is up to you if you want to manage that. Manage inventory is a must, right? And then track time, of course, right? We want to make sure that our employees get paid, all right? And then it says right here, enter and pay bills, of course. And last but not least, says right here, accept online payments. In this case, no, we're not going to be accepting any online payments as of today. So, I mean, it's honestly going to be just asking you a bunch of questions. So, whatever you feel is best that you want to set up for a company file, then select all of them that matter. So, in this case, I'm just selecting what I see is the most that we need so far for this company, okay? And I'm going to go ahead and click next, okay? So then now you see this bar, it's creating your company file as of right now, and then it will say, once it's done, you can go ahead and click, let's go, okay? So there you go, and then now it's creating your company file right now. And here's my dashboard, okay? Here's my top bar. Wait, well, not yet. Okay, there's my top bar, okay? There is everything here. Now, it says right here, you want to take a tour for this, and I'm going to say, no. I'm going to go ahead and close this because I'm going to give you the tour, right? So this is what we learned yesterday. We learned how to navigate QuickBooks Online is starting with our left navigation bar. So once again, if I drag my mouse and I put my mouse on one of these tabs, what it's going to do is it's ultimately going to give me centers, right? So in this case, if I want to go to, for instance, sales, sales will take me to my all sales center. It will take me to my invoice center. It will even take me to my customer center. Okay? So in this case, that is exact. So expenses is going to take you to your expenses and your vendor center. So again, as we explore every single section in the rest of the next coming up chapter, so chapter 4 is going to be vendors, chapter 2 is going to be your customers, chapter 3 is going to be your customers, and so on and so forth, right? Chapter 13 and 14 is going to be all about your employees. So every single chapter, we will explore majority of these tabs that you see here. But if you remember, right, your plus new icon is going to be always at the left top corner, and this is going to allow you to select and access majority of the transactions that we talked about, right? Especially when we're dealing with a customer, you need to know how to invoice them. If you're dealing with a vendor, you need to know how to enter in a bill. For employees, you need to know how to pay them. For other transactions, such as making bank deposits, you're going to need to be able to do that, right? And we're going to learn everything that you need and not do everything, but exhaust most of these forms that you see here, okay? Transactions, mostly, okay? So that's the left navigation bar with the plus new icon. As you remember, every single time that you log into your QuickBooks Online file, the first thing that you should see is your dashboard. So as you can see, this is where we're getting things done, right? So again, if I wanted to, I can manage my customers, right? If I click on that, it's going to take me straight to my customer center, right? So again, they are quick access link tools. Now it takes me to here and it says that I need to set up my customers. And of course, if I want to create an estimate, create a sales receipts or invoice, okay, or send an invoice, it says. If I click on that, it's going to give me this window. So again, everything that you have here, so here's the form that we're talking about, right? Literally, all you have to do is fill in every single component, and it even teaches you saying, oh, this is what you need to do. I'm going to ignore that. So again, you need to be able to know how to fill out a simple form. So again, like you're going to the doctor's office, right? What do you need? You need the name, you need the date, you need to know when you're going to be setting up terms. So we'll talk about what terms are, and so on and so forth. And you need to know what items and products you sold. And of course, we're going to also talk about sales tax, okay? So again, that is invoices section right there. Now let's see what else is here, right? We talked about setting up our customers. So in chapter 4, we'll set up our vendors. And in chapter 3, we'll set up our customers. How are we going to set them up? We already have pre-made Excel spreadsheets that has all the information that we need to import. Now, of course, you can also import each and every single vendor / customer one at a time. But what most of these things that you can see, it kind of walks you through every single section. So in this case, I'm in my customer section, so it tells me what I have to do. I can either enter in one of my customers one at a time, fill in all their information, or I can import a file, right? So it kind of guides you along the process to help you complete your company file setup. So again, right, we were at dashboard, so that was this here. Now again, we also talked about yesterday the business overview. Excuse me, my internet is fairly slow right now. Okay, so as you can see, if things don't populate up because of your internet, you'll get that little cloud, little icon. Okay, so there you go. They're slowly but surely popping up. Okay, now because I am starting my business profile from scratch, right? I do not have a single thing in my QuickBooks because I haven't recorded any income or any sales. I haven't incurred any expenses. I haven't set up my bank account. Okay? And again, my sales for the period for this last 30 days is a flat rate because I haven't recorded any sales yet. So in this case, you can see here that my graphs show that I have 0 data in there. But don't worry, eventually as we go through the process of all of the different chapters, these numbers will populate and create the graphs for you, okay? And of course you can toggle them based on a specific time frame, okay? And of course, here's your top navigation bar, or sorry, your top bar, I believe it's called. So again, here's that gear icon that allows you to be able to set up and personalize or customize your account settings and your lists and so on and so forth, and tools that you need to complete the entire company file setup, right? And of course, the last icon we have here is basically going to give you the option to sign out. Yes. Question. Okay. So, that is it for the company file setup. Okay. Now, what you're going to notice here are links in the PowerPoint. What are these links for? Now, in this case, these are pre-made videos that Intuit has offered to give for the teaching program, right? That they give you access to look at the navigation bar, right? These are pre-made videos that they set up. So for instance, let's go ahead and click on a link here. It's going to take you to a video, okay? And that video is basically going to walk you through. So this is made by Intuit themselves, that they created for the purpose of helping you to study, right? Helping you to view the QuickBooks application on there and to show you how to do things. So again, they do have that information there. Okay. So again, you can watch them. So I do post, majority of the chapters have these links, but some of them don't. So that's why I just want to let you guys know that there are pre-made videos that Intuit has already released. So this one this is the ultimate goal that saves me in time of recording these videos for you guys. Okay. All right. Any